questions. I would like to welcome you to this, the latest in Quaynote's webinars for the super yacht industry. Before I hand you over to our panel today, I'd just like to go through a couple of housekeeping points. We will be taking questions at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions, please submit them to the Q&A session, and we will try our best to get to your question. I will put that to the panel, as I say, at the end of the discussion. If you have any general comments, not questions, then please put those in the chat box that you'll see on your screen, and don't put your questions in that section, those in the Q&A. So I will now pass you over to our moderator and our panel. Our moderator today is Alison Vassallo, and she is a partner at Fenech and Fenech. She is joined today by Captain Andrea Simic of Simor Marine, and we have Ezio Vanucci, who is a partner at Moores Rowland. We have Janet Xanthopoulos, legal advisor and head of yacht and jet department at Rosemont Yacht Service. We've got Miguel Angel Serra, partner from Albor Galliano Portales, and Jennifer Timonis, communications director from Okada. Thank you very much, and I'll now hand you over to Alison.
So thank you, Lorna, and thank you to the panelists that have joined again. Today we have Andrea as well from Croatia, who we've recruited from our first webinar. Thank you for joining us, Andrea. And thanks for all of you for registering and logging in wherever you are. Depending on where you are, we're all at different stages of handling this very unusual situation. But regardless of what stage you're in, I hope you and your families and your colleagues are all keeping as well and as safe as possible. We held our first webinar in April. At the time, we immediately said that the situation, of course, is very fluid. We're dealing with the first measures being introduced by the different member states, and we agreed to regroup and reassess in a few weeks' time. The first disclaimer we are going to make is that things are changing from day to day sometimes. So obviously we are here to give you a snapshot of the measures that are now starting to be lifted. Many governments are now in a transitory phase with regard to the handling of the pandemic, and of course this is affecting in some instances the loosening of measures with regard to the yachting industry. But there is always a lot of scope for keeping one's ears very close to the ground, because sometimes it's difficult to identify what the position is. And we thought that the next best thing to all being under the same roof, which unfortunately is impossible at the moment, is to have everyone grouped together for you on the same screen. And it's very good to be able to hear and have a snapshot of what's going on. I think we should just go straight into it. As Lorna said, you are very welcome to send in your questions as we are speaking. I'm sure there'll be many. We'll try and reply to them. And I think the first question we should address immediately is, what is the current situation with regard to entry of yachts in your jurisdiction to take on services? So refit, repair, supplies, carrying out customs procedures. Are yachts allowed to come in? And if yes, are there any conditions? And I'll go straight to Janet to cover France and Monaco for us, please.
Okay. Hi to everyone. Okay, so the ports are still closed to foreign boats. So yachts which are now already based in Monaco and in France can go to yards. You need first to obtain the authorization, or at least to inform the maritime police, obtain the authorization to convey the yacht to the yards, and of course have a contract in place with the yards. As I announced last time, yards have started to reopen again the last week of April. Initially, they were operating at around 30% of their capacity. And now is that with local yards, I mean, to normal. Of course, they have implementing some special rules, and they have put in place some special cover pens I mean, there's little delay to expect. Of course, I mean, there will be a bit because they have to sanitize, clean whatever they touch every day. But this is the situation. Now I know that it's a bit on a case-by-case basis for foreign yachts, because normally they're not allowed. But I mean, if you obtain the authorization from the maritime prefect, the port authorities, you submit a declaration of health 40 hours before, and you have an agreement with the yard, there might be ways for foreign yachts to come. I know that a few yachts coming from the Caribbean have managed to get access to the port. So this is the situation in France.
Okay, right. So going to Greece now. Jennifer, what is this?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Okay, so currently yachts from abroad, irrespective of flag, are restricted from entering Greece until the 31st of May. It's unknown right now what date and to what date this restriction may be extended and on what terms. Saying that, I mean, to date, some Greek flag vessels have returned from abroad to home port. And yesterday I heard that some Greek flagged vessels will be towed into international waters from Turkey and then picked up by a Greek boat and towed into Greece. So some are coming home. And now in relation to the shipyards, for now, for the period 18th of May to the 31st of May, the law states that yachts can enter shipyards from abroad, subject to them not having any passengers on board, and also subject to them not coming from Albania, Turkey, or Italy. And of course, like the same with France, you need to have a contract in place with the yard and also have obtained permission from the port authorities.
Okay.
So for now, you can.
There's been a movement from our last webinar, definitely, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, the yards didn't stop working. And I do know of boats that have come in. So it's definitely positive on that front.
That's great. Good. Miguel, Spain.
Hi, everybody.
You have to cover all of it, the Balearics, the mainland, everything.
Yes, I will inform you about everything. Let's see, in Spain, since last May 19 until the end of the state of alarm, which will take place most likely by June 7, maybe there is an extension, but at the moment it's not foreseeable. It is forbidden the entry in Spanish ports of foreign yachts not having their base port in Spain, unless those yachts are sail only with professional crew. Therefore, the same that Jennifer was saying, with no passengers on board. Nevertheless, in Spain, there is no problem for those yachts to enter into industrial areas for refit and repair, sea trials, or transfer of yachts among the different areas by professional crew or by the shipyard personnel. It is true that talking about other issues, not refit and repair areas, etc., in the Balearics there is a special situation because ports and airports remain closed from the very beginning of the crisis. So it is allowed for yachts to come from outside, but it must be on a case-by-case basis, or if a yacht is, or if yachts are coming on a carrier or on a wise dock, etc., this is being allowed, but always dealing with the Balearic government, with the delegation of the government, and on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that, Miguel. Jennifer.
Thank you.
Can I just add, sorry, earlier when I referred to shipyards, I'm talking about shipyards on the mainland, just in retrospect, since Miguel hit the islands. It's
okay,
you can only enter in Greece.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for the clarification, Jennifer. Ezio, what is the any development?
Everybody.
Hi.
Yes, we have a big development for Italy, for Italian industry, for yachting, because first of all, we underline that from May 18, 1/8 of May, all the Italian industry for not only for yachting is again open. So there is not any restriction for not only for shipyard involved in the repair and refit activities, but also for any other kind of shipyard or other business and industry involved with our industry of yachting to work, perform, receive yacht, and so on. So what is only necessary is that there is a link between the Italian company and the yacht, the vessel. This kind of restriction to have in place a contract with the Italian supplier is due to the fact that today the circulation in the Italian territory is still limited to the regional area. So, for example, between Tuscany or between Liguria. But from June 3, this kind of restriction will finish, and the circulation in the whole Italian territory will be again free, not only for the Italian citizen, but also for all the European residents, including UK, Monaco, and all the United Kingdom area. So, the only suggestion that I can say is that based on some special rule regarding the wealth on board, I suggest to contact before the arrival in the Italian port the maritime authorities in order to agree which is the formalities to be deposited at the arrival in the Italian waters. At today, there are still in place the quarantine of 14 days, but this kind of quarantine will stop next June 3.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ezio, for the update. I mean, it's clear so far that it's always advisable, of course, to check the situation before, you know, approaching any works to be done anywhere, really. It would be very risky not to. Andrea, we've seen a lot about Croatia this week. So I know you have good news there.
Hello, everybody. Welcome from Croatia. I just wanted to tell you that Croatia never went to complete lockdown. So we had shipyards open all the time, but only for the boats that was already in Croatia. So every boat that was already in Croatia. But from 3rd of May, we opened to all the yachts. So everybody who needs to go to Croatian shipyards, to Croatian ports, or to Croatian marinas, they are welcome to come. There is no quarantine or no self-isolation. So the rules are very, very precise. And I don't know why, but it's functioning perfectly because we didn't have any case of COVID on the yachts. And when we prepared the law and when we started with all this together with the government, I said to the ministers, I said, look, captains are not normal people. They are very, very precise. They are very, very responsible. So be sure that we will not have any trouble because they're not putting in jeopardy only themselves. They are putting in jeopardy the property, the name of the ship and everything. And I need to say it's working perfectly till now. Knock on wood.
That's a very good point, you know, of the industry lending itself to checks and balances that are being required in this current status. I'll just say a few words at this point, of course, about the situation in Malta, which we're getting a lot of requests about. as I explained at our last webinar, our first one, we have a travel ban order in place, which was published on the 16th of March, right at the beginning of seeing the first local cases, which prohibits travel to and from initially a number of countries, and then with the extension order, it prohibits traveling to and from all countries in the world. So currently our ports and airports are closed. The only exceptions are for essential commodities, so cargo vessels, ro-ro vessels, tankers carrying essential commodities and goods. The Superintendent of Health does have the discretion to allow exemptions to that. And in fact, this weekend, a court notice was published which specifies that as regards yachts and services related to yachts, a request can be made on a case-by-case basis to obtain approval for yachts to be able to come in. Now, obviously, for us, it would be ideal to have a protocol in place to be able to guide our clients. And in fact, over the past weeks, through the yachting section at the Chamber of Commerce, we have prepared a very detailed standard operating procedure, which has been submitted to the government. And I was hoping that by today I would be able to share the details with you. I cannot right now, but we're hoping that in the next few days, we will be able to have concrete protocol, which will make the bureaucracy, the steps to be followed clearer to everyone and to cut down on the times that it takes. There's also a court notice published on the 5th May, since the last time we spoke, related to surveys on commercial yachts registered under the Malta flag, which allows remote surveys for the extension or postponement of the carrying out of surveys for statutory certificates and commercial certificates on board yachts. So that helps from the logistical side to handle that side of the registration of commercial yachts. I think that's so far as Malta. So the message is, if there are any requests to approach us, and we will of course contact the authorities on a case-by-case, and eventually we'll be able to immediately guide on what the boxes that need to be ticked to allow entry. We're speaking about, of course, yachts coming in with crew on board, so purely for services needing to call into our jurisdiction. So moving on now, going one step further, chartering. So of course we're at the peak, we're at the beginning of the season, the peak of inquiries, the start of the first charters in the Med. And during our last discussion, we were saying, will there be a season to salvage? Will owners want to charter out their yachts? Will guests want to go on board yachts and feel safe enough, feel comfortable enough? Will yachts be a refuge from contamination? Because what is there better than being able to sail away and isolate on board a yacht? So I know there have been developments in a number of jurisdictions over the past week or so, allowing charters, and perhaps you can take us through if they are allowed to start in your jurisdiction, if there are limitations on size of the yachts, on their flag, and on where they can navigate. And Andrea, I'm going to go straight to you because I was planning to come to Croatia this summer, so I have a personal vested interest in your reply.
So, as I mentioned yesterday when we talked, we open to all foreigners from 14th of May, and we don't require any quarantine or nothing else, and that was a big surprise in the world. But when we talk with a scientist, as you know, there is no 100% certain way that somebody will not carry COVID in Croatia, because even if you do the test at the border, you can still be positive in 2 days. So we just decided to let it go because it was not functioning properly, and we let the people in. So from the 14th, I had 10 charters. Everything went well. We had around 25 boats coming in this period, even private boats. And for now, everything is functioning. We don't have any limits on nationality. We don't have any limits on flag. And we don't have any limits on size of the boat. So charterers are welcomed. I need to point one thing. We are still following in Croatia all the COVID measures. So that means if the 3 friends are renting 3 different boats, they cannot have a party on one boat. Everybody needs to stay on their own boat and they can see each other outside, but still keeping the COVID measurements. So no partying on the beach with 40, 50 people. We need to lay low, as we said. So we have a freedom, but let's not use that freedom to make any damage to ourselves or to our friends. So still keep social distancing. When you are coming to the disco club or to the nightclub, wear your mask. I know it's funny, and I don't believe that somebody will have a will to go with a mask, but these are the regulations. But in bars, you don't have to do it because table from table is 1.5 meter of distance, so we are not too close. And I need to tell you, it's functioning. It's really functioning. So I think if we keep the social distancing, this all will work really well.
Well, that's certainly encouraging news for all of us, right? Because it means that there can be ways in which this new normal that people keep referring to can work and allow people to get used to different ways of behaving, limiting numbers, social distancing. It's really a question of perhaps getting used to it. Jennifer, any news from Greece for chartering?
Okay, so currently commercial yachts, they remain restricted from cruising until the 1st of June. This created a lot of controversy as private yachts have been released from the restriction. So as a result, I mean, I expect either that such date won't be further extended or that the government may even expedite and release them before the 1st of June. In any event, as advised, yachts can't yet enter Greece from abroad at least until the 31st of May. And, you know, we should know more by Sunday if that's over or if it's been extended. I mean, if there is an extension, I don't expect it to be significant, maybe another week, but yeah, we'll know by the weekend.
Okay. Miguel, Spain chartering. I know we had a number of questions about that.
Yes, well, in Spain, where possible to charter, there are no limitations of size, but there are limitations of flags because, as you know, no new flags are only available for charter in the Balearics and in Barcelona, just waiting signs, but not other no new flags. Anyway, the situation for chartering is very diverse right now, depending on the areas, because there are areas in different phases of the de-escalation, and areas as Barcelona, Valencia, or Malaga, which are in phase 1, are only allowed to charter within the province or just one island in the case, and only 12 nautical miles from the port of departure with a maximum capacity of 50% of the allowed passengers on board. So it's quite limited. There are other provinces in phase 2, which is the more advanced phase, like could be the Balearics, Tarragona, Murcia, etc., that measures for this phase for chartering are still being managed in Madrid. It is not still defined, but it seems that the 12 nautical miles limit will be removed but only will be possible to charter within one province or one island in the case, and the capacity of the yacht will be increased until 75% instead of 50%. Just one additional note, which is very important, because in the Balearics we have exactly the same rules as in the rest of the Spanish territory, but curiously, in Balearics, yachts cannot undertake charter at all in the Balearics as of today. This is something that we are dealing with the Balearic government, etc., because it's a different interpretation of the same regulations which we do not share at all, and we hope to solve in the very near future, because it's really incomprehensible. But it's what we have up to now.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Miguel, for that. Janet?
Yep.
Yeah,
I think that the question of chartering is not so clear, due probably to the fact that the decrees we have mention what happens and what is possible in terms of navigation, anchoring, stopping, and calling in ports for private yachts, but they don't clearly state what's possible for commercial yachts. And this is probably due to the fact that there's a problem of definition, because generally pleasure boats include private registered boat and commercially registered boats. So my understanding is that commercial yachts are allowed to charter. There are no limitations in terms of navigation in France. Of course, then you need to respect the land restrictions, because which will affect the embarkation and disembarkation. We've got a 100 kilometers limit from the place where people who are going to use the yacht leave. So this will have an impact. And then, of course, I mean, you need to respect social distancing measures when you're on the ports, health measures in place, and rules in place as well. There are some additional limitations in Monaco. So in Monaco, the thing is that day charter and day use is authorized, but only between 9 a.m. in the morning, 8 p.m. in the evening. If you leave more than one day when the yacht comes back, of course, this is possible only for yachts which have a permanent or seasonal berth in Monaco. Yachts should not be allowed, at least until June, to go to France. So, I mean, the area of navigation is quite limited in Monaco. And if yachts leave for more than one day, first of all, they have to declare so. And when they come back, they will be placed in quarantine for 2 weeks. So it's quite severe in Monaco. But, I mean, as everybody says, these rules will work probably until the end of the week, and new versions will be announced probably beginning of June, because we are entering into the second phase of the deconfinement. So I think that there are good signs that the measures will be relaxed. Again, there are no limitation of passengers in Monaco. And then, of course, you need to respect social distancing measures when you're outside in the port, which is 1 meter in France, 1.5 meters in Monaco. You're not allowed to gather for people to gather more than 10 people in France and 5 in Monaco. And yeah, this is the measures applicable in Monaco and in France so far in terms of chartering. There are additional restrictions for private yachts, but I understand that we will discussing about that.
Yes, we'll keep a bit of a distinction, so we can address both sides of the coin, so to speak. Ezio, Italy. From what you've said, I expect you to tell us that.
The situation regarding charter in Italy is this. We need to split which is the restriction regarding the yacht, regarding the circulation, and which is the restriction regarding the business. From May 18, there is not any restriction for the business, so chartering is allowed on the whole Italian territory. So any company, Italian or foreign company involved in chartering or rent of yacht can work. The problem is the circulation of the means of transport. In terms that at today until June 3, there is a restriction regarding the circulation between the region. from June 3, this restriction will be extended to the total of the whole Italian territory. So from June 3, so next week, for sure, it will be easy to charter in Italian waters with departure place from an Italian harbor, but also will be allowed for a charter starting, for example, in Croatia, okay, and cross in the Italian water for a portion of the itinerary. There is not any kind of restriction. Why? Because if the departure place of the charter is another EU country from June 3, as explained before, there is not any restriction regarding the border between European countries. The only restriction is what has been done on board a commercial yacht. The Ministry of Transport issued some news, some new rules published on May 18. And these rules make some measure to be respected by the crew or by the guest. The restriction for the guest is, first of all, that is mandatory on board to use the face mask and the gloves. The second, that is mandatory, the sanification of all the area of the vessel before the departure of the departure of the charter, and therefore before the embarkation of the guest. And the other is that is recommended for all the crew to have a COVID test, an updated COVID test before the embarkation of the guest. Regarding the guest on board, so the charterer, the only restriction is that obliged to keep the social distancing of 1 meter. This is the only restriction for the guest. So I think that after June 3 will be easy to do charter in Italian water for European people, because the main problem that I see is that client coming from US or in any case from the third country is not still allowed under the Italian law to arrive in Italy. This is the only restriction that I think can limit the charter activities from June 3.
Okay. Okay, so that's a lot of information. I'm going to have to re-listen to the recording and, you know, take notes. That's
another week, everything will change again. So
yeah, so I might just give you a call. You know, if I have a question, I'll just call you. Lorna, I know we launched a poll. Would you like to? These are all
thank you, Alison. Yeah, sure. I'll go through the poll results. So we had some good results here. We were asking people when they thought the port restrictions on yachts will be completely lifted by, and some quite telling feedback from people here. Just under half, 49% of respondents thought that the restrictions on ports would be lifted between July and August. So I think that's pretty encouraging. A further 32%, so about a third there, thought that they would be lifted between September and October. So we had some pessimists. We had 4% who thought that the restrictions probably wouldn't be lifted until November, December. And we had some, about 16%, who are predicting that it would be from January 2021 onwards. So some interesting results there, but I think generally pretty positive actually. You've got about sort of 70+% of people that think that by October restrictions will be completely lifted. I should just add, actually, Alison, everybody, that we've got just under 150 people that are joining us today as participants. So it's a really good turnout. Thank you, everybody. So back to you anyway, Alison. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, I mean, it's good to have this positive feel. especially me hearing you all speak clearly, things are moving, and they are moving very quickly. You know, of course, reflecting also the way this virus is behaving. Everyone's watching the medical experts who are the people who are guiding governments to then take measures. So I think we need to keep a close eye and react accordingly. But definitely yachting is one of those sectors where measures, protective measures, can be effective because of its size, the number of crew on board, and the procedures that both the crew and guests are used to maintain hygiene. So perhaps there we have a bit of an advantage. The next question ties with the previous one, and some of you might have already answered it, but very briefly, if an owner, so we have managers here, I'm seeing the list of attendees, we have various representatives, various advisors, so if an owner is looking to see if he can undertake charters, what would your first advice be? How would you guide them? If someone had to pull up and say, listen, I have a boat in France at the moment, what should I do? What do you think? So just very briefly, some practical advice to who's listening. Miguel, what would you say?
Well, Alison, we have, first of all, several dates. First is the date in which presumably will end up the state of alarm, which is June 7. So before that date, I would not recommend any owner to do absolutely nothing, because it's quite difficult to perform any kind of activity if they are not in the Balearics, for example, or in one region where pleasure navigation or pleasure sailing is completely allowed. But from a commercial standpoint, if we are talking about owners wanting to charter their yachts, probably we must wait until 15th of June. Basically because it is likely that the state of alarm is still in force. Secondly, because the third phase of the de-escalation will begin in the best of the cases, for example, for the Balearics on June 8th. And third, because the non-essential prohibition for trips are extended until 15th of June. So would only be possible charter for residents, but not international charter. I don't know what's happening. It's something.
There's a feedback, so perhaps I'll just ask Lorna to mute everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. And well, additionally, there is a quarantine for passengers coming from arriving to Spain from foreign countries. So this altogether makes it very difficult to foresee what can be done commercially with the yacht until the 15th of June. Okay. Since that day onwards, there will be much more possibilities to do most likely everything. But until that date, I would not advise to take any action unless it's sailing privately.
Okay, Miguel, thank you. Ezio, do you have any date before which you would advise owners to wait, or what would your advice be?
My advice is, first of all, to wait June 3 to start with the charter, because from June 3 there is the free circulation in all the Italian territory. Second, to the client, to the charterer, what I can suggest is to ask before arrive on board a copy of an updated COVID test, because based on the rule before explained, in any case, is not mandatory, but is recommended for all the crew members to have an updated COVID test on board. So, considering that is the captain responsible for these activities on board, I suggest that the charterer or the broker on behalf of the charterer ask for an updated COVID test before the arrival of the guest on board. The second is that in any case, it's important to plan an itinerary with the captain during the charter that includes only Union waters, because today, under the Italian law, there are still in place restrictions if the yacht cross the Union waters in terms of during in the itinerary there is also planned to visit some non-EU territory. So I suggest in any case to check the itinerary before departure.
Okay, Janet, you're muted.
Oh,
I will say definitely to clients to do their homework, to have a good chat with a broker, to check which regulations apply in the port of embarkation, disembarkation, that they verify in all the cruising navigation. I think that Italy is far more advanced than France, because France and Monaco, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. We think definitely that restrictions will be relaxed in terms of navigation. But I mean, we have to wait until the 2nd June. I would advise as well to check if, let's say that they arrive by air transport, to check as well the land restrictions, to be sure how they can organize their trip from the airport to the yacht. I would also suggest that they check what measures have been implemented on board in order to protect the health of the proper health, in terms of social distancing, in terms of testing, in terms of policies in place. If someone presents some symptoms, yeah, so do their homeworks. But again, in France and in Monaco, I mean, things are not clear for now, and things will be clarified, I mean, we hope, from the 3rd of June. So from the moment, for the time being.
Well, clearly we need to book another webinar between us for the.
I think definitely a lot will change.
Definitely, we should already fix a date. Yes. Okay. Andrea. Well, I think you've already answered.
Yes. So
Before, but any comment?
The situation in Croatia is very clear, as we have charter activity and private activity for the last 15 days. My advice will be fly with the private jets. I know it sounds very posh, and I don't want to be like that, but this
it is very posh.
This is the way to fly for now. We are also having commercial airlines flying in, but there is still a little bit of fear everywhere, because you don't know who is sitting near you. So all the guests that I had till now, they came all by car or by private jet. I didn't have any guests coming with a commercial. I had a lot of crew coming with a commercial, and every crew went to self-isolation, not because of the government, but they decided on their own to go to self-isolation, because it's not 100% sure that everything is good. So the only advice I will have, it will be that.
Thank you very much. Did I cover everyone? Jennifer, did I cover you? You're muted. Okay. No, you're muted again. Okay.
No. Okay, great. I think we're looking mid-June if we take it with the airport restrictions in place, but it's still, time will tell, most likely this weekend, as to when boats, visitors, etc. will actually be able to physically charter from abroad. The one thing I would say is, like everyone else has stressed, speak to local experts, make sure you're clear on all travel and cruising restrictions. But also another thing to keep in mind is I wouldn't rely at this stage on starting or ending a charter outside of Greece and Albania or Turkey, which is quite common, because it's still very grey as to what the position will be with Turkey and Albania going forward. And while it's still early, if there's serious intent to charter in Greece, definitely it's a good idea to look into getting a charter license because it's very likely that there could be charter disruption if they can't obviously start or end outside of Greece.
Okay, so I'm starting to get private messages from Lorna that we're running behind. So I'm going to start speeding up because I'd like to take some questions. We're getting questions, Lorna, both in the Q&A and in the chat. So I know
Yes.
you're keeping busy, keeping track of that.
Trying to, yeah.
One question I had related to private yachts now, because of course the emphasis has been on the commercial charters, the business side. But what happens to owners that have yachts based in a particular jurisdiction and they want to use the yacht to get away from all of this? Of course, assuming they can get to the boat, because if they're in another country, then of course they need to either fly there or drive down if they can. Can they go on the boat freely and sail freely with their families, their guests, etc., etc., etc.? Very quickly, Andrea.
So regarding the private owners, they have no limitation or on coming on board of weeks or something like that. We have just one limitation. So the owners can come on board and their family until the 2nd grade. Okay. For the friends of the family, we need to ask the special request, but it will be granted if there is no reason not to be granted. So it's very simple.
Fair enough. Okay, Janet, private yachts in Monaco and France?
Yeah, private yachts in Monaco is, as I said before, so you can do, owners can freely use the yacht. It's only day charter from 9 in the morning to 8 p.m. in the evening. No limitation in terms of the number of people they can take on board. They just have to respect the number stated on the certificate of registration, plus the safe manning. If the yachts leave more than 1 day, then 14 days quarantine when they come back. In France, there's still the 100 kilometers limit to join your yacht. So if an owner lives more than 100 kilometers from the place where the boat is berthed, then he cannot access to the yacht. What else? There's no limit. Yeah, and the thing is that in France it's free navigation, but there's another limitation of 54 nautical miles from the place where the yacht is moored or from its mooring buoy in order to stop, to anchor, and to call in a port. Okay. So free navigation, but 54 nautical miles to stop, anchor, or call in another port. Of course, from the French port the yacht has left. Yeah, and this is it. Plus, then, in order to embark or disembark, 100 kilometers from the place where the owner lives.
Jennifer?
Private yachts, currently they're free to cruise in Greece, subject to them being up to 12 passengers and to passengers on board keeping 1.5 meters distance. Of course, that's for boats which are actually here, because for the time being, as already said, foreign boats can't come in yet. But when they will, I mean, that won't last much longer. So sooner or later, they'll be here, private boats, without any problem.
Ezio, any restrictions for private yacht use? You're muted, Ezio.
Sorry, there is also a question on the chat regarding this, and for sure not. There is not any restriction when we are talking regarding private yacht used by Italian residents or European residents. So I don't see any restriction if eventually the people, the owner or the management company want to better investigate, the reference law is the rule in place from May 18, written by the Ministry of Transport, where is clearly indicate that what is allowed regarding a pleasure yacht and what is allowed about commercial yacht. But for private yacht, there is not any kind of restriction. The only mandatory rule is to maintain the social distancing.
Okay, Miguel, quickly.
Yes, Alison, there is no restriction for owners to use privately the yacht. It's just a matter if they can reach the yacht where it is moored, if they can.
Assuming they can.
For sure. If they can reach, because they are flying and non-essential flights are limited until June 15. But if they are in the municipality or in the island where they have moored the yacht, then the use only depends on the phase in which the territory is. If the territory is in phase 1, they cannot go farther than 12 nautical miles from the port of departure. If they are in phase 2, they probably, because it's not still decided, they will be able to move around the coast of all the province, or in the case, all the island. And there is a limitation also depending on the phase of 50% or 75% occupancy on the certified number of places in the yacht.
Okay. Perfect. So we're at the end, obviously a few minutes for question and answers, but very quickly, I wanted like literally a sentence from each of you. How do you see, what is the outlook for the season? Are you positive that there will be a season with this new normality? Well, Andrea, I think we already know the answer to, so we can please go ahead.
So I think the people did not forget 6 months ago, a year ago. So in their heart, there is still a will to sail freely. So I think if we do not have a new cases of big cases of COVID in the next 15 days.
I'm sorry, Andrea, I'm just going to stop you. Lorna, could you just mute, please?
Yes,
because
I will, yeah.
I'm hearing, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm hearing...
No, you're right, there is some feedback.
Go ahead, Andrea, sorry for that.
So I will repeat. So if in the next 15 days, nothing tragically happens, like a big new cases of COVID, I think people will completely forget. I see in Croatia, for example, I came, as you probably know, I was in Viareggio until 2 days ago. And I lived everything that Ezio lived, and it was not funny. And I came here, and the people are completely different. They're starting hugging, nobody's wearing a mask. So only in 1 month, they forgot everything. And we didn't have new cases. So if it will be like that, I think we are good to go. If something comes back, I think that will slow down everybody. We will have a new lockdown and we will not have a season. But I'm very, very optimistic.
Good. Janet, you need to unmute yourself. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
I think I'm very positive too, and I think that we are going towards the right directions. The travel restrictions, I mean, will be lifted within the Schengen area between the 3rd of June for Italy, I think, and July. So definitely this will help. We see that the restaurants should start opening, casinos should start opening as well in June. And we hear more and more actually yachting professional giving good signs about signs of growth and a considerable increase of charter bookings as well. So I think I read somewhere that a yacht offers a level of seclusion that no other accommodation can offer with everything on site. So I think that we will see a tendency for people who can afford, of course, and definitely will help if they can fly by private jet, that instead of booking in a luxury hotel, they would prefer to book a yacht because it's safer. So yeah, I'm very positive as well. Again, as it was said, unless we see an increase of numbers beginning of June or July at the end of the first phase of the deconfinement. but I'm positive, and from what we understand so far, numbers are decreasing. So yeah, cross fingers.
Jennifer?
Okay, well, Greece's handling of the pandemic in general, it was quite impressive, and we had very few numbers of incidents and deaths. So with this in mind, I mean, we're in a privileged position for the restart of the yachting season. Obviously, assuming all goes well globally and locally COVID-wise, our current indications is that Greece will have a good charter season in August and September at least, when taking into account, of course, the impact of the pandemic on the industry, numbers-wise. And due to the country's mild weather, we're hoping that the season might extend into October, so everyone gets their charters and cruising in. Good
point.
Yeah.
Now, Miguel and Ezio, you have to be very quick, because usually you tend to don't ramble on and on. So quickly.
I start and leave Miguel to finish. I am positive, and I think that the yacht remain a very safe place for holidays. So I hope that the business of charter will increase in the next months.
Yeah.
Again?
Well, I also think that at the end we will have a Med charter season also in Spain, shorter than usual, probably from July onwards. And although I agree with Jennifer that maybe it will last until September, October, when the weather is still good, and in previous years it was already declining. But well, I agree very much with what Janet says, that is one of the safest environments to spend holidays and to enjoy free time. So I think I'm very positive also.
What's going to be interesting, and this might take an entire webinar in itself, is how yachting is going to affect now the cruise line industry. In the sense that people who would normally go for cruises might start to look, as Jennifer and Janet were saying, to the safety and more isolation that a yacht can give you. So I think from a business model perspective and from an industry perspective, there's a lot to discuss there. But that is all from my end. So now I am going to leave Lorna to leave Lorna to conclude.
Yeah.
I just want to thank everyone, Lorna, very quickly, and I'm sure we'll have a follow-up mid-June. So watch the space, and please keep posted, keep updated with our posts, and thank you very much for joining us again, Lorna.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Alison. I'm not going to go through the poll results because we really are more or less at the end of our session here. We've got 3 minutes left. So I'm just going to ask one question of the panel that in fact we were discussing before we went live, but I think it's a very hot issue at the moment. So somebody has asked, what will the Monaco Yacht Show look like this year from your perspective? So I don't know if we just take a quick straw poll amongst the panel of how they think it might look, and share that with our audience out there.
Well, I think the lady on the ground should take precedence, you know.
What do you think, Janet?
She might have some news of the press, so please.
Okay, so it has been confirmed that we will have a Monaco Yacht Show, even if the member of Cybus and Libra will not be participating this year. The dates have been confirmed. It has been confirmed by the Monaco government as well. So it will be 23rd to 26th of September. And they said that will be a non-profit show aimed to, gather all the members of the yachting industry to think about what they could do in order to relaunch actually the yachting sector. This is the information we have for now. They should precise in the next days what measures they will put in place with relation to social distancing and measures to protect the spread of the virus and all that, though. We should know more during the follow-up session mid-June.
Excellent. Well, look, watch this space. Well, thank you very much, Janet. Thank you, Alison, for being an excellent moderator as ever. Thank you, Andrea, Ezio, Jennifer, Miguel, Janet again. And I'm sorry, everyone, we've run out of time to take your questions. Thank you for putting them to us.
Yes.
And we will certainly try and weave them into the next webinar, whenever that may be. There's obviously, it's a very dynamic, changing situation, and there'll be lots of information to cover in due course. So we hope to revisit that at some stage.
Yes, and if anyone, sorry to just to cut you quickly, but obviously
no,
if
absolutely.
anyone has a specific question, I saw so many aimed even at specific panelists, some are for me as well. Please get in touch personally with each of us. I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone, but that's what we're here for. So consider it as an open invitation to get in touch.
Thank you, Alison. Yes, well, look, I'd like to conclude by thanking our audience out there. As I say, we had 150 plus people who logged on today, so we're very thankful for you for sharing your time with us. Keep safe, keep well out there, and keep positive, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.